I come from a very small town in a very small state of India, which is Tripura, that red dot that you can see there. And I was sent to Bangalore with dreams in my parents' eyes, which was a very simple dream. For them, it was for me to get absorbed in the IT sector of India, and for me, it was to live in the pub capital of India. That was all. So in a sense, I learned how to code and how to drink beer at the same time. But what no one taught me was, how do you write an email ID when you send your job applications? So as you can as you can tell, two things have happened. One, I'm still alive. Second, I never worked in the IT industry. Instead, I became a teacher, a marketeer, and over the last 5 years, I transformed into a cultural entrepreneur. If you don't know what that term is, that's also all right. I also dug it up recently to make it sound more academic. What I did was I co-founded a venture where we were charging patrons to let them live and experience cultures, traditions, food, and ways of life of people who are otherwise less represented in our mainstream media, such as books, television, or movies. Now, in order to live these experiences, people had to travel to remote corners of geographically beautiful places in the northeast of India. And I was having the time of my life. I was getting paid to be on the road for 15 days a month. And I was meeting people from across the world and across the country. And also people whose hearts have touched me immensely. Business-wise also, things were looking up because it was a bootstrap venture. In the first year of launching the business, we generated revenues of about 80 lakhs. In the second year, we did 1.2 crores, and it was doubling every year. But in 2020, something happened, and I decided to quit as a co-founder of the venture, and I don't know why. Now, I realized that that's not the first decision that I've taken in my life, which is kind of maverick or bizarre to my to my well-wishers. The last of that was I got a scholarship to study in a university of my choice in the UK last year. And I had applied to the London School of Economics and Political Science, which is a very popular university. But I did not choose to go there. So when I graduated with my second master's from the UK, I was feeling this sense of anxiety that freshers perhaps feel. And I was trying to reflect on why am I taking these decisions which don't probably have a logic or reasoning. So that product of that reflection is what I want to share with you today, because I feel like maybe many of you would be embarking on your careers, and hence we are on the same page, right? So what I've come to realize is that in order for me to live a meaningful life, I need to take chances and do purposeful work which is aligned to my values. Very long compound sentence. You shouldn't write sentences like this. It's a little too long. So I'll try and break it down. Now, when I say values, I don't talk about your value to a potential employer or anything like that, because I've been following LinkedIn posts and a lot of people are talking about, you talk about your value projected to your potential recruiters, etc. I'm talking about the values that you have as an individual. And if you haven't reflected on them yet, then you probably don't know what your values are. But you're all born with it. When I say born with it, it comes from the family that you're raised in, the environment that you're growing up in, and it changes based on the decisions that you take in life, which exposes you to certain environment. And it might seem like talking about values is all high and mighty, but it's not. For example, if you decide to give up your seat for an elderly person, you're doing that because it's your value. And that's a simple decision in life. And a big decision such as, who do you marry? Or in today's context, maybe, should you even marry? Even that comes from your values. Whether you're acknowledging that value or not is a different question. The other thing is, these values that I'm referring to, your personal values, do not remain rigid. They change as you grow up, as you evolve. And it's just about knowing the values and recognizing the changes. And then when you So these are some of the values that appeal to me. And some of these values are in bold because if I were to select my core values, then I would say, okay, creativity, autonomy, authenticity, humor, empathy, and optimism. When you are choosing the work that you're doing, if it is aligned to your personal values, then I have seen from my experience that the work that you're doing becomes purposeful, which eventually makes your life more meaningful, right? And in my case, I have found jobs which gave me that purpose. And when I could not find it in my job, I created it for myself. Now, what is the next step how do you find this work, right? The answer is obvious. It's about taking risks. We all know that you have to take a risk, follow your passion, etc. If you go back to my email ID at the beginning, which said, "It's me, die young," I wrote that when I was 18 and I had that ID till I was 21. I'm a very optimistic person. And if you look at my values that I shared, optimism is one of the values. So my reason for having that was I believe that life is uncertain and the dream job or the career that you want is not going to land up in your lap. You have to take those chances. So in 2016, when I was starting my experiential tour venture, quitting my job in Bombay, the only question was, what's the worst that can happen? And the worst was, okay, foodless and homeless. But in my case, that was not going to happen because thankfully my parents could offer me shelter and food. Now I understand that not most people in India perhaps have that privilege, but maybe many of you sitting here have that privilege of having a home and food. So ask yourself next time you want to take a career move, what's the worst that can happen, and take that chance. The point of saying this is that I think as people, we are more obsessed with finding our tangible skills and focusing and deciding our life's ambitions on those skills. And I think that gives us incomplete information about ourselves to live a meaningful life. And therefore, the emphasis on the values. So let me now take you through my career. Though this realization of focusing on values has come to me in hindsight, my first job was when I couldn't get into the IT sector because of my horrible email ID, I'm assuming. My first job was as a teacher. By then, the ID had changed. And I was teaching underprivileged children in Pune, very close to the Yerwada jail. And I was drawn to that profession because it was appealing to my values of optimism, compassion, empathy, and adventure even. And as a leader in my classroom, I had the autonomy to decide how my children's future is going to be, of course, following the pedagogical guidelines and organizational guidelines. While teaching these kids, I figured that I have a sense of selling ideas. If I believe in something, I can sell it, which took me to marketing, where my values of creativity, knowledge, and humor were massively satisfied, but my autonomy was suffocating. And that's because I had no right or no say in choosing the brands I was selling. And that conflict I had preempted even before making that shift from teaching to marketing. And this is a conversation I was having with the principal, the late principal from my undergraduate college. And I was telling him that, I think he might not like my shift from teaching to marketing, but I couldn't realize at the time that it was a potential clash with my personal values that this profession could bring, which was giving rise to that hesitancy in me. Now, finally, when I moved to launching my own venture, I was extremely happy because I was using my skill of being able to sell things, but I was selling experiences, and I was bringing out a part of the country which has been long misunderstood. And as I said earlier, or probably I did not say that earlier, some values you take on as you evolve. And in my journey, sustainability became a value which is very close to me now, which means that next time the work that I do, be it a job or be it an entrepreneurial venture, sustainability has to be at the core of it. Regardless of how much money somebody is offering me, I wouldn't be able to join them if they do not care about sustainability. The point of this, what I've said so far is that if you're not focusing on your values and then finding that work, your life does not become meaningful. And it is not worth your time to borrow somebody else's idea of a successful life and tread that path. Because I'm speaking to you today and I'm in the spotlight does not mean that I have everything figured. I'm also standing at a point in my life where I have to decide what I'm going to do next. But I know one thing, which is what I want to give all of you, that I know that I have to keep taking chances to find that purposeful work aligned to my values. And I can only suggest that if you do the same, you might have a fulfilling career and meaningful life. So, thank you.